Welcome back. How was that? Were you successful in writing a few types? I'm going to show you what I would have done if I've gone through these files. Now, keep in mind that this isn't the only way. There are many solutions to the problem, but hopefully you'll learn a thing or two just by watching me add types to these files. Now, the first thing I actually wanted to show you is something that came by default in our create React app Typescript file. In the index.tsx, we see that we have in the React DOM render function, document get element by ID root as HTML element. And remember, this is assertion type syntax. So we're saying, hey, trust us, don't try to do any type inferences or anything like that. This is an HTML element. And as you can see here, if I hover over it, it's an interface HTML element that, well, is an HTML element. And we get that out of the box from definitely typed. You can see that there's an interface HTML element. Just wanted to show you that in case some of you were wondering. All right, let's start writing some TypeScript. I'm going to start off with card list because it's going to be a nice and simple one. Remember that I already wrote for you a few things over here at the top of app.tsx. Now in here, the first thing I'm going to do, let's go to card list over here. I see that I'm receiving the robots, and in app.tsx, I have this interface robot that I've already created and I've already exported. So I can just import this and use this as my type. So let's go back here. I'm going to say import interface robot from our container file or container folder. And let's do app. And now in here, I can just simply say that robots should be, and this syntax is a little bit different because we are destructuring here. So we're going to have an object that has the robots of array I robot or robot. Let's just double check that is I robot. So again, I'm going to make this a little bit smaller so you can see. I'm saying that these robots will have a type of array with the interface. In each of this array, there's going to be an object of the interface robot. I'm going to save. And I get a bit of an error. That's good to get errors because we can make sure that things are working. I see that containers doesn't exist because I need to go a folder up. All right, that's working. All right, we've added some types. That's great. Now let's go to another file. Let's do card. The card file. This is an interesting one. I'm going to introduce something new here called the stateless functional component type. Let's just create an interface here of name, email, ID. I know that we could use the robot interface here, but let's just try something new. I'm going to say interface, and I'm going to just say card stateless prop or props. And this interface is going to have name, that is string, email, that is also string, and then an ID that is number. And now in here, I can say that this const card is going to be a React.stateless functional component. And do you see how I have auto completion already? Again, out of the box, we have hints of what we can add. And if you go over here at React, we have a ton of attributes that we can enter, such as stateless functional component. And if you're wondering, like this seems random, where did I even get that from? Remember, we have our node module folder, and in the types, if we go to React and index.t, we'll have the sfc type. Let's see. Let's see where it comes up, somewhere around here. there it is. We see our SFC type. But our editor gives us enough hint to know that we have a React SFC, and this stateless functional component, and it gives you again some hint, will have the card stateless props type. Let me save. All right, and that's working. If I change this to string, that's going to fail. Perfect. So things are working. All right, let's go to another component. Let me close this, and let's do the scroll component. In the scroll component, we see that we're just receiving props here. We're not doing any destructuring. So we can do something interesting here. We can say that type props, and remember, they're a little bit similar to interface, just a few minor things that we can't do with them. And in here, I'm going to say that the children, because remember, we have props.children here, the children are going to equal JSX. And again, we get ideas of what we want it to be. We want a JSX element. So we want the children to have the type of JSX element. JSX is the syntax that we use with React. And if we go to app.tsx, we see that in the scroll, the child is a JSX element. So if I save that, we still need to add that type. Oh, with a type, I have to do add equal here. And then for props, I can just say props. And we make sure that we're always rendering a JSX element inside of the scroll component. And by the way, maybe we might have times where we don't have any children. Maybe we might want to use this component as something that doesn't always render children. In that case, let's just add a question mark here. So it could or could not work with props.children. Nice. Let's keep going and do the search box. Now we have some interesting things happening with the search box, mainly the onChange, the search change event. So let's do something here. Let's say that the interface is going to be called the interface search box props. And I know I'm changing the naming convention, but I just want to show multiple ways of doing it. And in here, the props, well, it's the search change prop. So the search change is, what is search change? If we remember, search change is something that takes an event, and if we go to app.tsx, we see that on search change is just an event that doesn't return anything, just updates the state. Now, how can we do this? And this one's a little bit tricky. We'll say that this will take an event. This event, well, what's this event going to be? If you remember, it's an onChange event. But React underneath the hood has its own version of the HTML implementation of onChange. Again, if you go to types and React, you'll see that they have something called React synthetic events. And again, don't worry, if you didn't know this, if you Googled anything to do with events for React, they'll actually tell you what you should do for events. So it doesn't mean that you didn't know how to do this. It's just one of those things that you'll learn. You just have to learn it once and then it becomes standard. So let's say that this is going to be React.synthetic event. You see that I have that completion, and this synthetic event is going to be an HTML input element because we have the input element. So it's an event that is coming from an input element. Like I said, it's a little bit tricky. And then finally, so that's the parameter, it's going to return void. It's not going to return anything. So I'm going to save. And is declared, but its value is never never read. iSearchBox props, let's add that now. I'm going to say that this search change will be the iSearchBox props. All right, everything is passing. Very cool. All right, we've done our components. Let's go to the app.tsx. As you saw over here, I've already done a few things for you, and we have a React component that takes props and state. And this is, again, pretty standard. You can see over here in the bottom that it says class React component, and it receives props and state. You'll see this a lot when working with React. And we've defined already the state and the empty props. Now, the next thing we want to do is to perhaps in the constructor function, also give it the app props, so interface of the app props. And let's scroll down here to the on search change. This one we've already done. We know that this is going to be a React synthetic event that will be an HTML input element. And remember that this function is going to return, let me just make this a little bit bigger, is going to just return void. Let's save. Everything is working. And we could also, let's say for component div mount, that it's not returning anything, so we can just do void here. Same with render, or render, if we do void, is not going to work because it is returning an element. So we can just say react.element. Or in our case, we could just say JSX element. Perfect. And you're starting to get the idea behind this. There's more types that we can add, but hopefully you feel comfortable to add types to a React component. You see now the power of having the type declarations. Remember, if we go to package.json, we have the @types. There's no way we would have been able to say react.synthetic event or JSX or SFC for stateless functional components. Those are all coming from React, the types by React. Again, anytime we use a third-party library, we might want to check that we can get the type declarations from Definitely Typed website, like I showed you. Overall, once you get away from the awkwardness of the syntax, if it's your first time seeing it, there are definitely some really nice things that happen for us. For example, now, if for some reason I never send the ID parameter, or let's say that in this card component, I never pass down the ID. If I save this, I immediately get an error before I even am able to see the app. I mean, here we get it because we get that error from create React app, but it doesn't even start to run our app because, hey, we already know it's not going to work as intended because you've told me that we need an ID property on card. All right, that's it for now. Hope you had fun with this challenge. And as always, I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.